Oh, but I have at the moon with a double time dose. Calling daylight stars to help prepare the ghost.
Welcome back. You're listening to The Way Home with Laura Smith on 1490 and 105.5 WGCH. Here's Laura.
Well, actually, here's Griffin Anthony. The music is so good, and I absolutely love every Sunday night, whenever I can, I go to the Cask Republic, I can talk, in Stamford, Connecticut, which is on Summer Street, and you can go in there. It's a fabulous little restaurant, pubby kind of atmosphere with a roaring fire in the fireplace and a great bar, and on a Sunday night, you can hear that music. Great song, singer-songwriter Griffin Anthony, who, you know, you go out sometimes, you hear background music, and they're doing a lot of covers and stuff like that, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But when I heard Griffin Anthony, I was like, oh my gosh, this guy sounds like a real like a real artist who is doing original music, and it's the type of thing where you're sitting there talking with your friends at the table, but then you just stop and you just start listening to the music because it's so that good. Griffin Anthony, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you. That was so generous.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Let me tell you, listen to that voice. I mean, so tell us your background. How'd you get started? Tell us about your music, what your thrust is. I loved reading your bio and everything, but tell our listeners.
Thank you. Yeah, so when people ask, what do you do for a living? I say I'm a songwriter. So I sell some songs, I license some songs. The gigging at this point, it still takes up 4 or 5 nights a week for me, and I depend on it.
Much?
Oh yeah, I depend on it. You know, but it's really a supplement to the aspect of songwriting and writing songs for film, for TV, and then still releasing music independently on my own.
Okay.
And lo and behold, at this point, I can make an honest living and still not have to live in a van or a tour bus or travel nonstop. I mean, heck, as of 2 days ago, I just bought a home, which is like, for me, a tremendous success in that when I got going with this about 12 years ago out of grad school, didn't think that that would ever be even a reality of any sort. I figured I'd be renting, I'd be traveling, it'd be hotels, motels.
Right.
So I got started professionally about 13 years ago. I was in grad school in South Florida. Okay. And I was moonlighting as a singer-songwriter, playing out songs that I didn't think much of around that Miami scene. And I was approached by a few people in the industry. And my first licensing, it funded a touring budget. And then from there, tried to build as much momentum as possible. This is like back in the MySpace days.
MySpace, yes.
So, you know, it was like a whole different landscape. But like that's kind of what got me going. And then little by little, I was able to rely more on the songwriting and less on the touring.
Interesting. So, you sound like an old wise person at this point, but people should, full disclosure, you're like in your 30s. You're still very young, and you've been doing this already 12 years. And like you said, you're a successful musician at this point because you're able to make a living solely on your music at this point, whether it's writing or licensing or performing. So you said 5 nights a week. You mean I can see you more than once at Cask Republic?
Well, you sure can. Yeah. So it's always tricky because the more you promote yourself, especially on the socials or whatever, as a local artist playing for free at a lot of bars and restaurants, playing for free from a ticket perspective. So people don't have to pay a cover to some of these places. Mm-hmm. The problem with that, I love that, and I rely on the budget of the house and like a set hourly rate that I charge. Mm-hmm. And I love working with these businesses. However, when it comes time to play the theaters and to market yourself as something more than just a local guy, it's kind of tough because they'll say, well, why would we hire you for this rate and ask for a $25 ticket price when someone could go and drive an hour and see you tomorrow night for free? So I never want to promote too hard.
Okay.
But at the same time, for all those businesses that I do play to where I can still sleep in my own bed an hour away from home, I'm super grateful for the work And like, there is a living as a professional musician to be able to play these little spots,
but let me tell you, this is a little different than someone who knows how to play the guitar or whatever, and has a pleasant voice. Listening to you, it's like I said, you want to stop your conversation. You position your chairs around so that you're facing you. And it is like a show because, first of all, I'm hearing original music that is absolutely beautiful. And then when you do covers of songs, you did a cover of something the other day. I can't remember what it was. And it was it blew me away. It made... It's like it brought that song that I had been listening to for 45 years completely to life again. And again, you're so young, so for you to have this sort of depth of your ability to interpret a song and the way you do it, but just with a guitar, you've got nothing else going on there. But it's rich. It's rich. It really, truly does remind me of back in the 70s when we used to listen to James Taylor, and there was it was about the song and about his voice and everything together that was like the perfect recipe for and that's why they're timeless, and you have that quality, and so you got this beautiful vibe going on. Honest to goodness, I could listen to you. Like I said, maybe I'll just start touring all those places. But that's a wonderful way. Like you said, it's still good for you because the more people who go. So if I'm going to Cask Republic every Sunday night, then they're able to keep paying you, right? Because you get people to go. That's how it works.
And that's the most organic way of promoting it is word of mouth and just having people come on back. And if it brings money to the business, then that's how they can keep having me. And that's like the purest thing, to show up to work and everyone's kind of happy and it's cool.
Tell us some of the songs that you've written for other people, or what some of the situations have been where your songs have been licensed or used.
Sure. So first of all, thank you so much for all the really positive things you just said. I want to hire this studio team as my new management team, and that's it, and we're good. So starting out, like my first toe in the water was writing really, really poppy tunes, like stuff that I don't necessarily connect with that much at this point in time.
Sing a little. Can you sing a phrase of one of those?
No, but I'll give you a title.
Okay, give me a title.
So like some of the titles on the first couple of things that got licensed.
Yeah.
Sleepy Sunday, A Toast with the Most. We're talking things that aren't super heavy in depth. There's nothing too weighted about these songs and these titles. However, and I'll tell you what, most of the licensing that they found were a lot of the shows on Bravo and a lot of the shows on E.
Yeah, because you watch TV now, and there's always a beautiful song that's underneath, and a lot of times they'll put the name of it or whatever. Do they do that with yours too?
They didn't. For most of that stuff, they didn't. However, there was some stuff on like MTV and VH1 for those shows that they did. But for the most part, it was like all the background kind of stuff, but on a lot of these popular shows. So it didn't necessarily equate to
notability. People saying, "Oh, there's Griffin Anthony."
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, financially, it helped really get me on my feet.
Yeah.
But that was it. It was like these shows that aren't necessarily like stuff that at this point in time you'd necessarily want to promote. That'll like. So it went from that, and then there were a few other like HBO documentary things and film score type situations, and that was a really, really cool just to get kind of opened up to that.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Was that with lyrics or just instrumental?
Some were and some weren't. I've done a handful of like the promotions they were doing for like the HBO Go or HBO Now streaming service when they started to do that to compete with the Netflix of the time, and that was great. And then even since then, some more commissioned pieces to where whether it's for another artist or whatnot, of songs that hey, we need this genre, we need this title, we need this build a song around this phrase. See if
interesting.
So it's kind of like a homework assignment in a way. It's like that kind of training from doing like a research paper. It's kind of just giving it your best shot, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. As a songwriter, you really hope it works, and you hope you beat out anybody else that they've asked to do the same piece, commission it, So, yeah, that's pretty much what I do in a nutshell.
That's amazing. Well, as I'm sitting here watching you and listening to your mellifluous voice, you're way too young to know about this, but you look a lot like Cat Stevens. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to put it out there. What do you think, Jimmy Dean?
Oh, I would say that's accurate.
Yeah.
The longer my beard
He's
gets.
fabulous. I mean, well, now known as Yusuf Islam is what his
Right.
name he goes by now. He doesn't go by Cat Stevens anymore. But you look a lot like him.
I've gotten that before. On the cover of the last record, I have a scary long beard.
Okay, so maybe next time...
If you guys pull up, if any listeners pull up a picture online, and I have this, I don't have it currently.
I've
but
seen that picture. You do look like Cat Stevens. Maybe you'll have to do Tea for the Tillerman at the next Cask Republic thing. We'll see about that. Hey, we're going to play a little bit of Griffin Anthony's music right now as we go into the break, and then a little bit more about how he writes, what he writes when we come back. This is The Way Home with Laura Smith.
Welcome back. You're listening to The Way Home with Laura Smith on 1490 and 105.5 WGCH. Here's Laura.
Well, you're also listening to the beautiful dulcet tones of a young man called Griffin Anthony, who plays our area every single week. You can catch him at the Ginger Man. You can catch him at Cask Republic, at the Little Pub. And that song is called Coyote's Lullaby, with a little bit of a kind of a throwback to the honky-tonk 50s country type of deal. Griffin Anthony, you sing in all different styles. I mean, I heard you do Steely Dan. I know you love Joni Mitchell. I know you love country music. What is the main thrust behind what your favorite music is, and what would you... I mean, I'm trying to tell people what I think you sound like, but you tell me what you feel you sound like and what your kind of driving force is.
Well, I think I sound most like Celine Dion, if you were to compare voices.
All right, wisecracker.
I love John Prine. My uncle played bass for John Prine back in the 70s. That's probably why I love
amazing.
John Prine so much. I love Bill Withers.
And someone said if they had a baby, Bill Withers and John Prine, you would be the offspring.
That's like
that was one of the quotes.
My most favorite quote of all time, right there. That immediately, that was like, oh, we got to use this somewhere. We got to put this up on the website or something. I love James Taylor. There's a lot. Most of the artists that inspire me are kind of from that 75, 82 era. I love Kenny Rankin, who's like not super popular. And he's passed away at this point, but it's kind of that same, like, it's the same way that this last record was recorded. It's all analog. It's as pure, like, if I miss a note vocally, like,
it was recorded in analog?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
like,
that's why it sounds like that. So good.
There's no auto-tune. There's not much compression on it.
Right.
It's working with my favorite musicians and a phenomenally, impossibly talented producer named John Estes down in Nashville, and recording it to tape, rehearsing the bejesus out of these tunes and doing it live and really ironing it out. Oh. So you have something that's raw and human, but also trying to execute them and deliver them the best for tape. So yeah, 2-inch tape. We weren't looking at a computer screen. It was stop. It was rewind. It was fast forward.
Oh, that's amazing. That makes me happy that they're still doing that. And was that in Nashville? No. So we're talking about your latest album called Refuge.
Yes. Thank
you. If you would talk about thematically what inspires you the most, what do you like to write about? I know you say storytelling, and definitely when I listen to you, you do tell stories with your music. What are the themes you like to kind of embed into your tunes?
So on this last record, Refuge, it's kind of a concept record, but not really. So Refuge, the title meaning safe haven. Mm-hmm. Each song on this are different people trying to find happiness and explain what happiness is for them. So very much from like a character-driven narrative perspective. So sometimes I'm like, there's a song on there called Two Americans, where just two characters, husband and a wife, that fall in love and then get divorced and grow old. Like, not the most like fluffy type stuff, but another song like I think the next one that we may play today, called The Lucky Architect, is about just the sanctity of a bedtime for a little, having a child and having this little creation that you love unconditionally and can grow up to be whatever, so all over the place in theme. Mm-hmm. My favorite song off the record is called On the Level. And that is kind of a metaphor for like music industry of working really hard and just doing whatever you got to do mm-hmm. to pay the bills. And whether it's appreciated, whether it's not, whether you're doing it for yourself, but it's just work. You wake up, you write songs, you play when you don't want to play, you sing when you don't want to sing. Yes, you're grateful for the work, and it's like any other job.
My daughter's a musician, and she's a singer-songwriter, and but she does it all computer. That's, she's been doing it since she was 16, and she's savvy about getting stuff out on the different platforms mm-hmm. and everything. But it's just changed so much from those days with A&R, and you'd be signing these deals, and you've got the Led Zeppelins and these super mega bands and things like that. I mean, the music business has completely changed.
If I can even piggyback on that, like, all the music that I love and listen to is from that 70s era, late 60s, mostly 70s, early 80s. That's like the sweet spot of everything that I love. Mm-hmm. Stuff's wildly changed since then to when I started. And I started, mid 2000s professionally doing it. And even since then, the business model has completely changed tenfold. And every day it's like the landscape and the climate of the music industry and entertainment and broadcasting even as well. It's like
it's all changing.
It's so
but
vastly
you have to
changing.
see it, and from my perspective, being in it now for a quarter of a century, you have to be flexible. And I think it now is the best time ever to be a musician or a creative,
Sure.
content creator and so forth. I think the sky's the limit, and I think with you, we can find you on all over. And we can find your music. You actually still have vinyl. You're selling a vinyl record of Refuge right
Absolutely.
now. How can we find it? Can we go to
GriffinAnthony.com?
There,
it's all listed. It's
Griffin Anthony,
all...
and that's Griffin with an I-N. Okay, so Griffin, Griffin Anthony. Anthony being his last name, just exactly how it sounds. GriffinAnthony.com. GriffinAnthony.com. You can find his music. You can buy his music. You can see where he is playing. Congratulations on your new house.
Ooh, thanks.
In Connecticut. And I look so forward to hearing you and seeing you pretty much every weekend.
Awesome.
Thank you. GriffinAnthony.com. And when we come back, some good news from my good friend Jimmy Dean over here, and making it a beautiful Wednesday on the way home. I'm Laura Smith.